Fandom Family Chats. I'm your host, Maureen, and tonight we're joined with Jeanette.
Hello.
Amanda.
Hello.
Shelby.
Hi.
And Tiffany.
Hello.
And we are talking the roses on Schitt's Creek. Schitt's Creek. Shits. There's an S at the end of that. It's a subconscious thing. I feel like I'm swearing anyway, so I just made it one. We wanted to...
Thank you.
We wanted to start with the main family of the show. We know the Schitts are obviously a big portion of Schitt's Creek, but we wanted to break down the dynamic of the Roses tonight. We wanted to go over their relationship with each other, how it changed, because it did. They had a completely different relationship at the end from what they had in the beginning, and they got there fantastically hilariously. So we just want to dive into that, and let's start with the first thing we see them in, right, is in front of their giants. What are those called? Portraits, but it's something else, isn't it? Isn't it called something other than the portrait? Or is it just a portrait?
Yeah, I think it's just a portrait. I don't know.
If
it's called something else, I don't know.
Fancy name for it.
There probably is, but I don't know what that is.
Peasants.
Right.
They're sitting in front of their giant portraits, and they're all clearly very detached from each other. Even Rose, or even Johnny and Moira, seem a little detached from each other. They're in their own little worlds, their own headspace. And I love the scene when the FBI is going through their stuff and what each of them is trying to take. And Johnny's just trying to be responsible. David is freaking out about the decor. Moira and her wigs is my favorite part.
Yeah.
I don't remember the names, but it was something like, don't put Marie in with Jasmine. They don't like each other. And then, of course, Alexis with her bags and saying that it was a gift from her boyfriend, so it's technically not property that can be taken away. So they're all concerned about their own things in the beginning. What was the first time you noticed a change in that?
Oh, I'm trying to think. I don't know, because I feel like it's like a slow progression. Like,
You okay?
What?
I got tea leaves in my mouth. Sorry.
Oh, oops.
I feel like Alexis and David started progressing quicker than what everyone else did, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
They got pretty close pretty quickly, but they kind of more bonded over the fact that their parents weren't really around when they were kids.
Yeah.
And I think the beautiful thing about that is that we see in several episodes in the future that David wanted that relationship with Alexis. He was worried for her. He cared for her. He loved her. And so I think part of it was probably a relief to have each other together where they could keep an eye on each other. I think for David, at least, there was no stress. I mean, there was stress involved with living with Alexis. How could there not be? But it wasn't the kind of stress where he thought she was going to die at any minute.
Right.
Of course, the first thing he says when he gets into the hotel is, switch beds with me. I want that one. If someone comes in, I don't want to get murdered first.
You get murdered first. No, you get murdered first.
I like that Alexis said, for once, David, I'm not going to be the one to be murdered first. Were you murdered first last time?
Oh my gosh, I love that scene.
And I like
All four,
what, Chub?
Me.
Amanda?
all four, yeah, we were both talking.
Oh. Go ahead, Shelby.
Go ahead. All four of them were very about themselves to begin with, like on all the levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I looked up all the words for portrait.
And they are portrait,
Account, characterization, depiction, figure, image, either likeness or ickiness. I don't know which one that is. Model, painting, photograph, picture.
mural is what I was thinking.
That's what I was thinking.
Wall.
There it is.
Yeah. I realize it's wrong now, but that's not what it is. That's what I was thinking of calling it. A mural. Technically, it wasn't.
Maureen's finally wrong.
It was on a wall. It was just inside a frame on a canvas on a wall.
It was humongous.
Maureen, you're wrong for once.
Uh-oh.
I like that you said for once. Let's leave it there. Let's not acknowledge any other time in this entire podcast I've been wrong. Yes, I've been wrong once. You heard it, folks.
First time. Mark it down.
There has to be a first time for everything.
I still haven't been wrong one time, so
All right, I just found a goal for this podcast for me.
Trying to figure out what Amanda's wrong about.
Yep. So let's talk about the Roses. What are our favorite aspects about them in the beginning? Because even in the beginning, when they were really, really selfish and they were really, really arrogant and snooty, they all had redeeming qualities in the beginning. What were your favorite things about them?
I don't know, I'm trying to think. Like, I was watching one today, and I mean, it's not like Alexis dealing with like her family, but it was the episode where Twyla is gonna make or write a song for Mutt, and then Alexis finds out that Mutt is not, that he's wanting to break up with Alexis. And that was one of the first times I think you see how good of a person Alexis is, because she goes to Twyla and warns her without, saying like, hey, he's going to break up with you, but just, like, you need to talk to him before you put yourself out there like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Twyla realizes, she's, says thank you. She realizes like she's just trying to be a good friend to her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
So I think Alexis has always had that good heart. She's just not been surrounded by people that would appreciate that about her.
And she's not surrounded by people, or she hadn't been up to this point, surrounded by people who cared about anyone else enough to bring that out in her. They were all
right.
I think her friends were worse than she was by far.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was part of the rich, snooty crowd.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what it seemed like.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And even David, when he came, I can't say his name normal. I can say my husband's name normal, but I can't say his name normal.
David. Yeah.
But even when he comes on the scene, like, he has a deep sensitivity to the things that are around him and to the people around him. But even his friends didn't encourage that, because he was all about having the best appearance, not just in clothes and style, but I mean socially and visibly in every aspect. He was more concerned with having the best, the greatest, the most posh appearance that he possibly could across the board. So I don't think that allowed for much time for him to be who he actually was, because we see him rather quickly become friends with Stevie.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that he says, I'm trying not to connect with people right now, but he still connects with Stevie without even trying. He connects with her. And I don't think it's just because Stevie is like him. I think it's because that's the kind of person David is, but he's never been encouraged to be that way.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I connected with David in a lot of different ways because of like how somewhat antisocial he is, but like he always was making friends even though he didn't necessarily want to make friends.
Yeah.
What are you trying to say right now?
Right.
I'm very antisocial. I don't like people at all.
Except for us.
I know y'all
She
can't tell.
likes you. I think it's interesting that Stevie brings out the best in everyone when Stevie is so Stevie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because even Johnny and Moira connect with her. Of course, at first, I'm going over first impressions of everyone. The first impression we get of Moira really is when she thinks Stevie stole her earrings, right?
Yes. Yeah.
No, I did not accuse her. I simply asked. Okay, but the first impression, I don't remember the first impression we have of Johnny though. What was Johnny's first reaction when they got the Schitt's Creek? Oh, Roland in the bathroom when he screams at Roland to get the F out.
Yeah. But I think Johnny from the beginning, like, I mean, he's the one that I thought was probably the most down to earth of the four of them, so I mean, his transition isn't as severe for me as the other three, just because I mean, theirs is complete 180.
I feel like the person who had the least amount of change was Moira.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
I would say Johnny.
Yeah, I think of Johnny.
Because Moira learned her daughter's middle name by the end, and Moira showed up for her daughter and other people by the end, and she cared more about other people than she did herself before.
Now,
Yes, but she was also going to fly out
Yeah,
to LA during David's wedding.
It's true, but
I mean, she did end up marrying them in the end, but she was going to.
dressed like the Pope, but still.
I do think Moira took the longest
Yeah, I'll
to
say
make
that,
the change, for sure.
Mhm.
I've
But
only
I think Johnny made the littlest because Johnny was already essentially who Johnny was in the end. he didn't have to change a whole lot because he was already that kind of person. In fact, I even think that's why he kind of, he wanted to get out of there. Yes, he wanted to sell that town, but he was genuinely excited to be with his family, to get to know his kids more, to be with Moira more. And he just wanted to be busy. I think that was it. But even in the busyness, look at how he handled the business, gave Stevie such a starring role in his business. Johnny was more about the other people than the rest of his family was, I would say, at first.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And so that's the
Okay,
only I would say he had the least amount.
Can I ask a question? I
No,
was kind of confused about.
absolutely not.
Okay, keep going then.
What's your question?
When they were in the big house, like before the FBI raided and everything, was the kids living with them in that house? Because like it seemed like Alexis was off all the time and David was off all the time, and they didn't really know anything about each other. So I didn't know if they were technically still living there or if they were like out on their own, and then once all that happened, they came back together.
I think they were being, oh my gosh, David, I hear it every time I say it, I hear it.
David.
He was living in New York. I think he was either called back to his parents' place or maybe he was temporarily living there but he still had a place in New York when he moved to Schitt's Creek. He talked about that place. But he could have been trying to transition away from there. I don't know, but he had said that he had a place in New York. So, and then Alexis technically lived with her parents, but she was always off with a boyfriend on a yacht. So I think they both
were being held in an embassy against her will.
I think honestly that's Alexis's biggest character growth, is no longer being held in the trunk of some dignitary's car.
Her stories crack me up.
So
and Johnny's face when she tells the stories, every time he's like, God, I love it.
I think they were both living there technically, but they did have other places that they were typically residing, funded by their parents.
Because the reason I was wondering, like, I remember David talking about the New York house and stuff, but like the reason I was confused is because like they don't seem like people that could live on their own and survive on their own, because they don't seem to know much about anything.
I think that they were fully funded by their parents and thereby their business manager, who screwed them all over.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why they all ended up in Schitt's Creek, because the business manager was handling all the money that was financing all their lives, because none of them could do it on their own.
Yeah.
And when that happened, I think that obviously David's gallery, I mean, the stories about the gallery don't sound like it would be that profitable of a business.
No.
So I think that there was nothing left to keep the gallery afloat or to keep his apartment, so he had no choice but to go back. That is the impression I got just from how they talk about it.
Yeah, I think so.
I stopped because it looked like you were going to say something else, Shelby.
No, I'm trying to think, because it's been a while since I watched it, because me and Kenny, we were watching it together, so like we kind of drug it on a while, so like I don't really remember the beginning, to be completely honest with you, and I didn't have time to rewatch it today.
Yeah, they don't really ever say where they're living at that moment, other than what leaks out as they talk about it throughout the seasons.
Yeah.
That's the only information we get. They were always together on holidays, but even then Alexis would shove out to go on a yacht before the holiday party was even over. So my favorite story that Alexis tells, I don't even remember what she says, but I just remember she was 14 in Cambodia or something like that. She was having a relationship with an older dignitary, and Johnny was like, "You did what?" She's like, "You knew about that. That was when I was 14. When you were how old?"
So funny.
And that's the other way they changed, is that Moira and Johnny were the most oblivious people on the face of the earth to what was going on with their children. And then by the end of it, they knew absolutely everything, including emotionally what was going on with their kids by the end.
Yeah.
And I think that was really beautiful to watch unfold, because it didn't happen all snap. And I like that's how the Levies wrote this show, is that it was a slow progression. When they first get there, I also love how Roland is the one who sort of brings them all together too. And I think that's really telling about the Roses, that the most unlikely source, the most the most obnoxious of the entire town is the one that pulls them all together. And they all have to rely on the same person for everything.
Yep.
And I like that who they really connect with are, I don't know if you can call any of them outcasts, because they're all so weird.
Yeah.
But they,
I mean, Patrick is probably the only semi-normal person in that whole town.
Yeah,
that's accurate.
that's true.
Who'd you say?
I felt like Twyla was.
Oh, I don't think so at all.
You thought Tyler was normal?
Have you heard the stories about her family?
And the way she discloses them?
Her cousin that used to be a hooker. I just watched this episode.
My
the other
cousin
day.
used to hook.
And Mutt's like, Twyla, it's not the time. It's not the time. I just watched this episode right before that.
When is the right time to talk about Trixie?
Yes. Oh my
How
god.
is that normal?
Town, they're all so weird.
Yeah, I mean maybe Ronnie's a little bit normal, but really none of them are what I would say is
Ted,
completely
and Ted's
normal.
about as normal as Ronnie, but they both have their intricacies.
Well, I mean, Ted maybe towards the end, but Ted in the beginning is not normal either.
He's just very nice and naive.
I didn't.
So weird.
That's off topic, but I don't like Ted in the beginning at all. I mean, he annoys
That's
me.
only because Mutt was in the picture.
No, I've rewatched it. He's so awkward and like just I don't like him, but I love him later. So I don't know.
That's very telling of Alexis too.
Yeah.
That the one that she romantically was driven to, of course, looking in Schitt's Creek, I don't imagine there's that many attractive dudes in that town or many viable options in that town.
No.
But she didn't know that when she first moved there. She didn't see everybody in town.
Mm-hmm.
Who she was drawn to was the one who was kind and compassionate. And I get the sense, judging off of her in her fight with Stavros over the naked girl on his Instagram, the one who had the back tattoo, he promised he'd never date someone with a tramp stamp. He promised. That Ted is so the opposite of any guy she's ever dated. And I think that says something about what Alexis is going to turn out to be by the end. That seemed like a little foreshadowing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so.
I have to tell you, I was surprised by David and Stevie's encounter because I thought as Stevie did.
Well, I mean, I did, and then I gotta admit, I mean, I was really wanting them to be a couple until I met Patrick.
Yeah.
Because I really liked them, and I'm glad that it worked out the way it did. But I liked them together.
I did too.
Yeah, the first season I wanted them together,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that I realized that I like the friendship more than anything romantic.
Yeah, I agree.
But I was shocked because I was like, this guy's gay. And I was like, wait, is he not?
I was so confused.
I knew who Dan Levy was, and I know about his story,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't sure if he would write himself in there. So I was like, oh, what is happening right now? And I love how Stevie put it. She's like, so, I like red wine, and up until last night, I thought you did too. Like it's
right,
perfect, because that was everybody's thought.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think everybody thought that he only liked red wine.
Yeah, but he likes white wine, and
and
and the occasional rosé. Yeah.
One thing though, I did like I think it was near the end, the whole Christmas party that Johnny threw.
Mm-hmm.
I think that showed like a huge character development in everyone as well, because like they all showed up for him, and I love that.
And they did
like I know that we're still talking
about their gifts.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say?
I said I know that we're still talking about the beginning, and I kind of jumped a little bit, but that was one of my favorite episodes.
We don't have to go in order.
Yeah,
we're just talking the roses tonight.
Free tonight.
Yeah. We're winging it,
I really
baby.
liked the barn dance episode.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really good one for
so many reasons.
Nice family moment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was your favorite part about that, Tiffany?
I liked the end when Moira was telling the kids that she loved them. They loved the kids. I didn't expect that to come from Moira. No,
neither did they either. I love David's response to, hey, I said it normal that time. I love his response to it when he's like, they can't see my face, but he rolls his eyes and he says, I love you too. And then the other,
so cute.
So it just shows how far they've come as a unit, because they never really heard that from their parents before. So much so that David couldn't take the smile off his face but he still
Mhm.
felt a little uncomfortable saying it. So it was something he craved, but also was afraid of. And it was a really nice moment. Isn't it also the episode that we meet Jake?
I
And we
think
see
so.
a competition begin between Stevie and David, and you see I think that's the first time I see the competitive side of David. Because you see the snobby side where he just thinks he's better at everything, but you don't really see the competitive side of him.
Yeah.
But he really, and I don't think it's just because Jake's hot, because Jake's hot.
No.
I
Oh,
think
definitely.
I think it's because he wants to beat Stevie at something.
Yeah, I think so.
Or just be right, at least.
I think it's yeah. I don't think it's about Jake necessarily.
Especially when he says, "Oh, I thought I was shame eating alone."
Oh
He has so many good lines in
my
this show.
god. I love him.
Maybe we should have just focused on one rose at a time.
I was looking at just moments on Schitt's Creek. Just scrolling
Jake's
down.
stomach, did you just say?
No, I was going through
Oh.
good moments on Schitt's Creek.
Oh.
I just got to the one where David left Stevie alone in the car while he was working at the Blouse Barn.
Oh. What does Stevie say when she comes in?
I don't
See,
know.
I wish I'd seen this more than once. I'm working on my second watch. I haven't got very far, so
I started my rewatch.
yeah.
But I don't know. Right here, you're talking about the communion.
Yeah.
Is that about? She
I think
says,
so.
"What about my sister's communion this weekend? This is also going to be a smash at my husband's trial hearing."
Wait, what is that?
She said, What about this? I had my sister's communion this weekend. It's also going to be a smash at my husband's trial hearing." This is what happened.
What is no, I heard what you said, but what is that from?
When she goes into the Blouse Barn.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
I don't remember that part. I don't remember saying that. I thought she was just harassing David about leaving her in the car.
David asked Stevie to show interest in an item to make him look good.
Mhm.
That's right.
Probably.
Okay,
Yeah.
now I remember it.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too, is I feel like where they were really dependent on their parents their entire life in terms of monetary contribution,
Mhm.
you see all of them begin to ask for help from other people.
Mhm.
And while I get that they're used to like servants and aides, and by aides I mean an assistant, and they're used to all of that sort of stuff, I don't think they ever actually ask for help because they need help. And that's what they start doing when they're in Schitt's Creek. I think usually they're just expected that help is going to come. So they've never really had to ask for it because help is just always right there. Go get me this, go do this. But in Schitt's Creek, they actually start asking for help.
Yeah.
And you see it with Johnny when he starts his office in Bob's garage. I can't mention Bob without an instant picture going in my head of his jog walk.
Bob.
He's just so amazing.
Yeah.
And you get the feeling too that, and we said this a little bit from the first episode, that Moira and Johnny are a little detached from each other.
Mhm.
Not because they don't love each other or care for each other, but just because it feels like they have their own things that they're always doing. But in
Yeah.
Schitt's Creek, I mean, we see them getting intimate on more than one occasion.
Yeah.
And you get the sense that they've kind of lost that, especially with the letters. And Moira completely forgot she was the one who wrote those letters to Johnny, and she was upset.
Mhm.
But it's because she's paying attention now where she wasn't before. And by the end of the show, she's no longer hiding in closets high on Quaaludes. And she wails with her wig on.
Oh.
That was amazing. I think the first time we saw her do that, we paused it and rewound it and then watched it again like 3 times.
Funny.
I love Closet Moira.
I love Moira altogether. She makes me laugh.
I think she might have had the biggest character growth, actually. Well, I don't know. Who do we all think?
don't know.
Tiffany thinks that Moira did, right? Or no, Tiffany thinks that Moira had the least amount, right?
No, that was me.
That's what
Oh,
Amanda
No.
said.
So who do we think had the most growth? I think it's really hard for me to decide between Moira, David, and Alexis.
For me, it's David or Alexis.
I think Alexis did.
I think I lean towards David, but it's close.
I feel like David was.
Yeah.
I mean, my gosh, really neither of them were, but I feel like David was a little bit more.
I mean, I think he's got just the fact that he decides to stay in Schitt's Creek when everybody else leaves, I think is a major, like, that's probably the reason I think he had the most character growth. Just from how much he hated the place when he got there, and then he decides to build a life there in the end.
But also, if you look at Alexis, she has never in her entire life been alone for anything.
Yeah, which I agree. I mean, those two are, I mean, it's almost a tie for me.
I don't know. It's hard.
I love David more, so I may lean towards him just because, but I don't know, but it's close.
What do you think, Tiffany? You think Alexis?
I think just by a small margin. I agree with Jeanette. It's very close. But yeah, Alexis went off on her own for the first time. She, gave up Ted, which was like her first actual real relationship. And she just was really matured by the end. I mean, she did all the schooling herself and everything.
Well, Amanda, who do you think had the most growth?
Alexis.
For the reasons we stated, or your own reasons?
I just think Alexis. I mean, you'd think when she first got there, I don't feel like she could do hardly anything for herself.
Mm-hmm.
And David could at least take care of himself a little bit more.
That's true.
I mean, like I said earlier, not much.
Yeah.
I feel like he was just a hair bit more mature.
Yeah.
It was in the beginning.
I would say that, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember when she had to break up with Ted?
Yeah.
And she crawled almost into her body on that chair. She freaked out about having to, just the idea of saying no to someone. And I think that's why she got into so many back trunks, because she couldn't say no to anybody. It's, well, this might make him happy to kidnap me, so I'll do it. Like,
yeah. I think she grew the most as far as becoming more independent, but then I think David probably grew the most as far as like emotional growth and finally like allowing people to letting them in and loving them and loving other people.
I'd agree with that. I think that's an excellent point to make, because I think they all had their own categories that they grew the most in. Like Moira began to care about other people more than anybody else. Well, in terms of growth, I think more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Because when she came there, she cared about no one but herself and her career. And
yeah,
by the end of it, she cared what her daughter thought. She cared about how she affected her daughter, and she cared about how she affected David and Johnny. Yes, she might have wanted to fly out to LA, but she did see the wrong in that. And I don't think before Schitt's Creek she would have.
Yeah, I agree.
And honestly, I think the biggest, when we really start to see real change take effect, was that one dinner that, at least for Johnny and Moira, that one dinner they had with their old friends. And they were ridiculing the town in front of Jocelyn and Roland. And Johnny was watching their reaction as they got more and more uncomfortable. And he stood up and said, no, the town is Schitt's Creek, and that's where we live. And I think that's when Johnny and Moira really started to see the value in where they were.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually what started to turn her around. Because even her relationship with Jocelyn, there was not a chance she would have had that kind of relationship with anybody, but certainly not someone of Jocelyn's standing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I know she was stoned when she confessed to Jocelyn where she came from, but do you think she's ever told any of her friends in LA that ever?
Probably not.
No. So I think they each grew in really different ways. I don't think Johnny did much, because I think Johnny at the end is as much who he ever was.
I think he was already a good person, I think. So, I mean, yeah.
And running the business he did, I think he already cared about other people. And you could see that kind of when Patrick was like, I used to work for you. And then he said the store, and he said a comment about how that store did, how many years after that store closed.
Yeah.
So I think Johnny has always cared about other people. Maybe he hasn't been present. And that's where he grew the most, I guess, is being present with his kids.
Yeah, man. That's true.
Yeah. I mean, didn't he try to have the sex talk with Alexis after he thought she might be pregnant?
And she's like, what, like 25 years old or something? Like, a little late. Yeah.
And Moira tried to explain to him what sex is for after David walked in on them that one morning. That Alexis is genuinely trying to figure out what's going on until she realized it. She's like, oh, ew, no, stop, ew. David is like, David was a vampire cloaking his eyes.
Oh my gosh.
There's so much gold in this show. So much. You know,
Right before we did this, I was trying to watch a couple episodes and I was putting Shelby to bed, and I mean I had to turn it back off at that until I got her to sleep because I kept like laughing like hysterically out loud, even though I had my earbuds in, and I was like, no, I couldn't stop laughing because I'm like, I can't watch this show without hysterically laughing.
you just thinking about the scenes, like I'm not as good at acting as they are because I'm not good at all, and I'm not as good of a writer as they are. But even that, when I'm repeating it to myself in my head, I can't not laugh hysterically because it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you guys have a favorite moment with? I could see your lips moving, Amanda, but I didn't hear words come out. What?
I said it's just the dialogue that they wonderful.
And the expressions. I mean, Daniel
Yeah,
Levy
David-
should
Oh,
win an
yeah.
Emmy
For his
just
face.
for his facial expressions alone.
Yeah.
Oh,
Definitely.
Was it one of you who created that? Didn't you put something in our Schitt's Creek group of which David are you today? Was that you, Amanda?
I think so, yeah.
That was perfect. It was so good.
I think I did that one. I've done them before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did I make the David one?
Maybe I
made
didn't
the
make
Moira
that.
wig one.
Yeah.
I did not make that one.
Who made that
Maybe
one?
we've
I think Tiffany did.
yeah,
Oh, you
Tiffany did that.
So like, I know I've made the faces once before. I don't know if I made David's or not.
There's
Who
just
knows?
so many things that they
Yeah.
utilized in this show for this cast and even the background that was subtle but also really in your face about how the characters went through life and how they changed. And they didn't really change that much. And we talked about this in our last Schitt's Creek podcast, especially with David and Alexis. They didn't really change that much in essentials of who they are, but they were given leave to actually be who they are more. And so it seems like huge changes in their personalities and their growth, but no one ever expected much of them before.
Right.
No, like even with Alexis, like when Ted would say things to her about how he felt about her, it completely threw her for a loop because she never imagined that anyone saw any value in what she did or who she was.
Mm-hmm.
And so her getting that job was a really, really, I thought that was a really sweet way to subtly demonstrate who Alexis has always been, but also who she's become since moving to Schitt's Creek. Because she was good at her job that she
Yeah.
created on her own.
Mm-hmm.
Also, her turning down the money from Twyla.
Oh yeah, yep. Mm-hmm.
That really
And-
showed a lot of growth for her.
That was in the finale, right?
Yeah.
Or was it before
Yeah.
I
then?
think if not the finale, then the one right before it.
Is that the
it's
one
real
where
close to the
Twyla
end.
told us that she was a millionaire?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She won the lottery.
No, I didn't
Yeah.
actually. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't actually win $94 million. Okay, because I was about to pass out. I split it with somebody else. Half of 94 million is still a boatload of money, Twyla. She's so
Absolutely.
cute. I love her.
She's so funny.
But even when Alexis brought them to that cult, I don't think the old Alexis, I don't think she would have been like, guys, no, don't purchase anything here. It's a scam. I'm so sorry I did this. I think old Alexis would have been, okay, I have to make this worth my time. I have to make it worth everybody's time. Let's just make everybody happy. Let's make this cult leader happy.
Yeah.
And so it did show a lot, but that was a subtle thing that we could see who she was always, who she had the potential to be always, who she was in essentials, but also how she let that out more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they each found someone who brought that out in them a little bit more. I think Jocelyn was that for Moira,
Mm-hmm.
and Roland was that for Johnny.
Yeah.
I love those two together so much. Stevie was obviously that way for David.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Patrick did bring a lot out
Patrick
of
too,
David,
yeah.
but I think that Stevie was really the powerhouse and making David available for Patrick.
Yeah, I would agree
Yeah.
with that.
I do.
And Ted was that for Alexis.
Yeah.
Because I would like to say it's Mutt because I was really into her and Mutt. Like I really like those two together. But that was a purely physical thing. And
Yeah, I mean, it
shows when
fizzled
he
out. too
shaved
quick.
his beard. She was like,
Well, I mean,
I can't be with you.
If I'm being honest, I really wasn't that into him after the beard was gone either. And I'm not a beard girl. But him without the beard, it didn't work. It didn't
He
work.
looked like 20 years younger.
He did.
He looked like a
his-
teenager.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It just didn't fit his whole persona. He needed the beard.
Yeah.
Mhm. And it was full and it was dark. And I
Yeah.
think that's what really made him pop was the darkness of his hair color on his face made him seem
Mhm.
very mysterious and a little homeless. I think that's why.
Why is that appealing? But it is. It is.
Oh, no. Even
I'm not
Alexis,
sure.
that was why she was drawn to him. He looked like a
Yeah.
homeless man. She thought he
Yeah.
was stealing compost because he didn't have money to eat.
I was
And that-
disappointed in all that though, because I feel like their chemistry was so strong and then it just fizzled. And I was like, oh.
Mhm.
But then Ted was good too, Ted 2.0 anyway. So
Yeah.
Well, we only see Ted for only the first season when he's dorky, right?
yeah.
Second season on, he's muscular motorcycle bike. Nope,
Yeah.
that's not a word. Motorcycle riding.
Mhm. Yeah. I like that Ted much better.
I told you were gonna like him. You didn't believe me at first.
You did. Well, I mean, I was looking at this guy like, why am I gonna like him? I'm gonna like him more than Mutt? I couldn't figure it out. But then I was like, oh, okay. Okay.
Then he wore a really tight white shirt, and you're like, oh damn.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
So, did we have a favorite moment with these characters, with these four?
Oh.
There's a lot to choose from for me, though.
Hmm.
So this is a surprisingly hard, maybe not so surprising, but it's a hard question for me to answer. I've been thinking about this since we scheduled this podcast episode.
I mean, I think it has to be the last scene when they're telling Johnny and Moira bye. I mean, I don't know. It's
What?
just when Moira and Johnny are leaving
Mm.
and kind of the goodbyes. I think that's my favorite scene.
With all
If we're
four of
talking
them.
scene for all four of them. Hmm.
What about individually?
Well, individually, I don't know if I can even pick. 'Cause there's just so many. I don't know. I mean, for David, my favorite scene is when he lip syncs that song for Patrick.
That's what I was gonna say.
And I mean, I know a lot of people like Patrick's Serenade better, but I don't. I mean, I like it, but I like the one that David does better because it's like so out of his comfort zone and so out of character. And I don't know, just those two are the best. So
And it's a sacrifice for David.
Yeah.
Even Patrick says, people can see you right now.
mhm.
So I mean, I agree with you completely. I think that showed a huge development in David.
Yeah.
Because not only was it a sacrifice, not only was it out of his comfort zone, but that was him 100% giving himself over to somebody else.
Mhm.
I don't think
And he's
ever
so
done that.
freaking adorable doing it. Like it's just I
He's
watch
also
that scene
so
all the
adorably
time.
drunk.
I love it. I love every minute of it.
I like the backstory of that scene almost as much as I like the actual scene.
Oh yeah.
It's very true.
And I love that it was also out of Daniel Levy's comfort zone. Like that made this
Mhm.
scene so authentic and so real. And you
That's why, yeah.
can't help but love it.
I think Daniel Levy and David are basically the same character from what I can tell. So that's what makes it work so well. Their personalities are almost identical.
I think Daniel Levy's a better dresser.
I was gonna say with that, and he's not, pretentious, like David is in the beginning. But I mean, as far as humor and all of that, I think they're very, very similar.
Mhm. If I had to pick another David Rowe's favorite moment, it's when he had an oopsie.
Oh my gosh.
And that's for multiple reasons, not just because it's absolutely stunningly hilarious. Ooh. Hang on. I sucked in a chip. But the fact that he draws Patrick's attention to the fact that the bed is wet,
Mhm.
harasses him about it for almost a full minute before he realizes he peed the bed. And then Patrick says, well, what is it? Nothing. You
Oh,
were the one who drew everyone's attention to it.
it's so embarrassing.
But he didn't hide away under a rock after that.
Yeah.
Even after it was live streamed by his mother. He didn't run and hide from anybody.
Yeah.
And I think that also shows how far his character has come, that he was unafraid to continue being seen after the entire world knew that he still wet the bed when he got nervous.
So funny.
That was also the most surprising moment for me of the show.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. I definitely didn't.
Yeah.
I love that David sitting down with Johnny to go over interview questions.
He's like, why do you want this job?
I don't.
I don't want it. I mean, there are too many David moments to pick one because they're all so good.
One of my favorite Alexis ones is when Ted's trying to help her with the lice problem. Stop saying lice.
I mean, my favorite Alexis, it's the cliche answer, but it's the little bit Alexis performance. I love it. I mean, I rewound that like 3 times the first time I saw it because I was like, this is too funny.
If we're silent, it's because we're laughing so hard no sound is coming out. She did that in heels too. How do you do that?
And how, I don't know how you got through that scene without like just, I don't know. So funny.
I would have loved to have been on set that day to see how many takes they had to do to get that right. Didn't she write that song herself?
I think so.
Annie Murphy?
She is, I love her. Love her.
Tiffany, did you have a favorite David or Alexis moment?
I think my favorite David moment was probably the end when he decided to buy the house for Patrick.
That showed a lot of him.
I love that.
It was co-written by her.
What?
Okay.
It was co-written by
Oh, the song. Tiffany, what about that scene made that be your favorite moment?
I didn't see it coming. I mean, I kind of thought that he might choose to stay, but to actually go and make an offer on the house himself for Patrick, that was very sweet. And you could tell that it really meant a lot to Patrick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then when David and Stevie were crying on the hood of the car.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Like, I love who David is with Patrick, but I love even more who David is with Stevie. That he lets himself be that vulnerable with someone who he's not in a like committed relationship with.
Yeah.
Says a lot.
Yeah.
Definitely. I love their friendship.
Mm-hmm.
What was
They
yours?
did a lot for Stevie too.
Oh yeah. I feel like she changed too throughout.
Yeah.
It wasn't, we're talking about the roses tonight, but it wasn't just the roses. I feel like the entire time grew up.
Absolutely. Did you have a favorite Alexis moment, Tiffany? I'm only asking you because I'm trying to think about mine.
I know, I'm trying to think too.
I think mine had a lot to do with, it's either would have a lot to do with her scenes with Twyla, because she's never had a friend that honest, and Twyla was a whole different breed of honest. She offered you information you never needed to know. I don't think Alexis is used to that kind of honesty and truthfulness. And I think she craved that. So I think that's one of the reasons she was drawn to Ted. But I think that Alexis's friends were so vapid and so mean and so self-serving that having a friend like Twyla, I think that really encouraged Alexis to be that honest and open about who she herself was. And I think her relationship with Twyla really did help her a lot to become who she was, because even when Ted wasn't in the picture, she was continually growing.
Yeah.
Singles week is another one for me with Alexis.
Yeah, that's one of my
Yeah.
favorite singles week.
Yeah, and not just
I
because
also
her
like
trying
when
to get back together.
Yeah. I like when David's getting his license and Alexis is with him. Just her trying to, you know, calm him down a bit. Nobody cares. You know. I like that scene with them. They're so cute
Yeah.
together.
I forgot about that
They are.
scene.
I love that they're like that in real life. Like every interview I see, I
Oh,
mean,
really?
they may as well be brother and sister, just the way they like. I'll have to send you. I sent a TikTok to maybe I thought it's just to the group like last week. I don't know. They're hilarious together.
I think that another scene I like with them together, there's two of them with Alexis and David. One is when they're in the car, David's driving, and I think they might have been on the way to the cheese tasting at Ted's new girlfriend's farm. But when she's talking about her escapades, and he's like, yeah, but you don't even know what that did to me when you were gone. How much that destroyed me, not knowing if you were going to survive or not knowing if I was going to get a call that you were dead. And her response to that, like that, there's so much funny in this. There's so much funny in the show that I think those moments like that kind of get shoved under the rug really easily. But there's a lot of those really, really sweet, intimate moments that this town has allowed them to be vulnerable with each other about. And I don't think that they would have ever confessed any of those things to each other had they not been in this town with these people who, I mean, you look at Schitt's Creek and everyone knew when Bob's wife left him.
Yeah.
Everyone knew about everybody's problems and they all cared for everyone's problems equally. So this town was the best sort of rehab that these people could go into. And the other one was when I think it's the same episode when they're getting close to being at this farm and she realizes that's Ted's girlfriend. Don't get out and walk home. Go back home. Don't ruin this business venture for me. Like it's from one extreme to the other.
Right.
I love you. I miss you. I don't want you to die. Get out. Don't ruin my business. All right. So we talked favorite David, favorite Alexis moments. Does anyone have a favorite moment with the two of them together?
Oh yeah, the one you just said was my favorite one.
Which one?
When they were in the car going to the cheese thing right before they meet Ted's ex-fiance.
Which one? They were both from that scene.
No, the sweet moment.
Okay. When he said, you don't know how much it pained me.
Yeah. That was mine too. I already have my favorite Moira and Johnny moments ready to go. So
all right, Tiffany and Jeanette, what were your favorite moments or your favorite moment of, oh my gosh, Alexis and David's together?
I mean, mine's a funny moment. It's the one about who gets murdered first again. I just think that is so funny. Like, and I mean, it's because I have a brother, and I feel like this is like a fight that you would have, like maybe not, who you get murdered first, but like over something totally ridiculous.
I feel like my brother and I would have that exact argument.
Now, granted, we wouldn't have it now because we're adults, and most people don't have those like obnoxious, but we definitely did when we were like teens. I mean, like, so.
My brother and I would have that now.
I have this, like, I sleep closest to the door in case somebody brings in. He's further away, to protect himself. We have
That's funny.
Every time.
That's how my husband and I sleep, though. Like, he sleeps furthest away from the door, and I'm like, this is not right.
Us too.
Get it first.
But it's we joke about this all the time. Like, if somebody was to break in, he's not going to wake up and protect anyone because he sleeps like way too heavily. So it's like,
yep,
I'm going to be the one left defending the family, not you.
We're all screwed.
So we're screwed. Yeah. Yeah.
Tiffany, do you have a favorite David and Alexis moment?
You cut out a little in the beginning, so I didn't hear my name. Did you?
Do you have a favorite David and Alexis moment?
I think the driver's license scene is my favorite moment of them together.
That is a good one. I really like that one.
Yeah.
So for me, my favorite Moira scene, and I know we're going favorites here, but this is just to kind of show where they were from where they are. But I think my favorite Moira scene is when she shows up for Alexis's graduation.
Mm-hmm.
and she sings there. And the only caveat to that is that it's still about Moira. And that's
Yeah.
but she knew that it was important to Alexis that she shows up. So the biggest part about that was that she got all the other women to sing. And I think that Alexis took so much from that because she knew that that's what it was important. That was how her mom was able to show feelings. That's how Moira was able to declare how she felt, was to sing it in song like this. So I think that's my favorite Moira moment is when she decided to show up
Yeah.
at the graduation. Favorite Moira moments.
Um.
Fold the cheese.
Yes.
Oh, fold it in.
It's classical. It's probably a lot of people's favorites, but that is my favorite Moira moment.
It's probably one of my favorite moments. I mean, it's one of the funniest moments from the whole series, I think.
I like how he's like, how do I do that? Well, you fold it in, David.
You say fold it in one more time. I love how she says, everybody jokes about how Alexis says David, but I like the way Moira says it. David. I don't know. I just love it. I can't do it nearly as well as she can.
I like how she says anything.
Yeah. Baby. That's my favorite word of hers when she talks about her baby.
I sent you guys the guy, the senior that took his baby home from TikTok, right? And
yes.
The baby Moira.
Yes. I remember seeing that.
The baby Moira.
Oh, yeah.
That's my favorite word she says. So funny Moira moment, which is one of my favorites, is when they go to buy the used car and she like gets all into like that character. Oh my gosh. She is so funny. Like, and she stays in that character the whole time. And Johnny's looking at her like, what are you doing? I love it.
Isn't that when she has the Cockney accent?
Yep. In that ridiculous wig. And I forget, she's wearing, is she wearing David's clothes? I think she put on some
that was
David's
gonna be my favorite
clothes.
David Moira moment when he's like, she said you have to relate to the people or something. He's like, well, clearly not with that outfit. These are your clothes, David.
I have that meme scheduled to go out.
I love it.
Just looking at it yesterday, I was like, that's going on.
So funny.
He's just ripping on how ugly she looks in those clothes and how ugly those clothes are. She borrowed them right from him. Tiffany, did you go ahead?
No, I was just gonna say, well, I'll let her go because I have another one, but I don't want to steal it. So we'll see if she.
I have 3 favorite Moira moments.
Go for it.
2 of them are with Herb. The wine tasting with David. I mean, that whole episode is completely hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she's doing the video, the commercial, she just rambles off all these names. But also, I really like that episode because of her and Johnny. When Johnny comes back for her to help her, I really like that their relationship that shows them.
How did you get the door open? I threw a shoe.
I just watched that one earlier.
Oh.
And then the third one is her talk with Stevie.
That's the other one. That's what
about
I was
who?
gonna say.
Her talk with Stevie before she goes on.
Yep.
For the show. Yeah, that was just a really sweet moment. And I did not expect her to say any of those things to Stevie at all.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I love that moment.
I love that scene in the wine tasting when she says, I don't remember, she says, I like this strawberry or this banana. And he's like,
that's
I think
not.
it was strawberry. He's like, that's the banana. Poor Herb just gets thrown into the deal with her every time he hires her. What, did you have another one, Jeanette?
No, the Stevie one was my other one.
Oh.
Have y'all seen the Annie does like her like impression of Moira during like that wine commercial? There's like a video out of her like,
yes.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. I love it.
She does a good job.
She really does. That's good.
Moira's completely hammered right then, right? By the time she's doing that?
Yeah, I think so. She just takes so many takes that, I think eventually she's hammered. Yeah.
And she's hammered like before she even goes on, right? Because that's why Johnny was harassing her and she just started drinking in her trailer.
Yeah, maybe.
And the other part of that scene, Tiffany, that you brought up is when it's like, but Moira, you did this all of season 3 and season 4 and season 5 and most of season 6 and part of season 7 of Sunset Bay. And then she says, are you saying I have a drinking problem? She's so unaware of herself, I think, when she comes to Schitt's Creek.
Yeah.
I think it's another growth that we see is that she's more aware of herself, of who she is, of how she comes across by the end.
Yeah. I would agree.
How about a favorite Johnny moment? I have a lot of those.
I have a lot.
Those are harder for me. I don't know why.
Because you don't have a lot?
Yeah. I mean, and it's not that I don't love him, but of the 4, he's my least favorite. And so
I have a least favorite.
It's harder for me to pull one out. Like, I'm sure you guys are going to say I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I love that part, but
when he gets dripped on. One of the
Give my best to Bob Cratchit. And that was really hard and we've done this in our group too. That was really hard for Eugene Levy because he's very, very protective of his hair. And he willingly allowed it to get drenched in water. And that was a really hard thing for him to actually have them film.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't know that.
Then we did a trivia about that. Maybe we didn't.
Oh, maybe I just admitted that I didn't read all the trivia. So sorry about
How
that.
dare you? We work hard on this, Jeanette.
Sorry.
there's a lot to keep up with here. I'm just
right.
Gosh, all you people, it's okay.
A side note, all of the trivia I did when I was doing the trivia Thursdays and Tuesdays or whatever, I never once went back and told the people what they were right on or if they were right or wrong.
Oops. Just left them wondering.
I had 7 posts a day in all of the groups. I'd go back and tell them they were all right or wrong.
Yeah, they figured it out.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. No worries.
One of my favorite Johnny scenes is when he's trying to find the raw milk, a deal in raw milk. And then he asks Alexis for help, which was his first mistake. Well, I think Alexis told him she had the hookup with Ted, but including her at all and giving her a math total was his first really big mistake.
Oh gosh.
I also love the other Johnny scene I like is when he's at when he sees Bob's car for sale and he's asking Bob about, oh, I want to take it for a test drive before I actually buy it. Don't take it on the highway though. Oh, no, just small turns. And maybe a left turn over this way, but don't take it on the highway, Jenny. Oh no, of course. But maybe just a little further down the road. And then he takes it on the highway and immediately breaks down.
Yeah. That's funny.
And then when he has to call Bob to tow him, Bob still tries to sell it to him.
He's like, we'll get back and sign the paperwork. Buying this.
Tiffany, do you have a Johnny moment? Because I have another one. You don't.
I like when he gets naked at the lake and Moira walks away from him for the phone call and then he gets caught.
That's funny.
That's a good one. Also, when it shows his business smarts when he is trying to set up the town to sell when they first get there. He sees the town sign.
Yeah. No, that part I love.
And Roland's like, why do you hate my family? Roland, I don't hate you. I don't hate your family, but it's this sign. Then Roland says it's his sister.
It's okay. It's
Roland,
his sister.
How are these people going to know it's his sister? Oh, I see the problem. Oh, I'm glad you can say it. I'll fix it. But then in the end, when they leave, they repainted this sign that he was very protective over to make Johnny the woman. But the way that Johnny turns to look back at it with such complete affection, because he realizes that for them to paint over this town sign that has been there for hundreds of years, that is a namesake for them, that is precious to them, to change that sign to include the roses rather than anyone from Schitt's Creek. Yeah. And how he has such affection for that sign. I thought that was really sweet at the end, the final episode.
Oh, yeah.
What about moments with Johnny and Moira together?
I still have more Johnny moments.
Oh, okay, what's more Johnny moments? We'll fill in for Jeanette and Tiffany here. Oh, Tiffany had one.
He interrupts David in his afternoon delight.
With what's his name, right? Jake.
Yes, Jake.
Because he also walks in. I just watched this one. Like he also walks in on him and Stevie the morning after too. So,
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite moments with both of them. Was the next night after they've been at the
with
Schitts
Stevie and
with
Johnny?
Moira and Johnny.
Oh,
So when they see Stevie, because Stevie and David are basically going to hook up again the next night, and then Johnny and Moira come back and they're stoned like from the party, and they start talking about like, they can't afford a baby right now. Moira's like, track your cycle, lady. And I don't know. That's a pretty funny moment. They're like, okay, we're gonna go.
it was a good one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was just so awkward.
Yeah.
Another along the same lines of Johnny walking on them the next morning. My favorite part about that is when he's trying to save Stevie from the man who's holding her captive behind her.
Right.
If someone is keeping you against your will, blink once.
Blink. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Another favorite of mine is when he thinks he's trying to do something so nice. And this is another reason why I don't think Johnny has changed that much from who he came to the town as. But when he wants to really bless Stevie, and it might seem like an insensitive gift, but we find out it's just because he's a terrible gift giver. But he so badly wants to do something nice, and he thinks it'll be relaxing for Stevie. He thinks that she'll appreciate it. He thinks it'll make her feel good. And he buys her that makeup kit.
It's like the worst makeup that's ever existed, though. Like,
when Stevie comes out, I used your gift, Mr. Rose. And then he says, all right, I get it. I'm a terrible gift giver. You heard about the basketball court or something like that. But that just shows who Johnny is, because as insensitive as getting makeup for a woman is when she never asked for it and clearly doesn't ever wear it.
Right.
It was just Johnny thinking, okay, well, Moira likes to wear makeup. Alexis loves to wear makeup. It's relaxing to go to the spa. That was Johnny trying to say, I value you and I want you to feel good about yourself and take a break. Here, enjoy this. And that's who Johnny is through the whole series, I think. So I really like that. As funny as that was, I like that depiction of his character. And that wasn't that far into the seasons. I think it was like halfway through. Right?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't far, I don't think.
I mean, the roles he gives Stevie at the motel, he never had to do any of that. He didn't have to train her. He didn't have to teach her. He didn't have to come alongside her, but he did, because it's easier for Johnny than I think the rest of them to welcome people into their family, to welcome people into their fold, because I think he genuinely loves people.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think the others come to love people, but what?
He was like in the business world. He was, socializing with other people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Alexis and David were in their little friends group.
True.
Yeah.
Friends were all like them. And Moira was with her lady friends who didn't work.
Yeah.
He was more in the real world than the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably true. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Moira had an acting career. So she hung out with a bunch of snobby celebrities.
She was a soap star. So yeah, they were definitely like a bunch of divas. So,
Cutthroat.
just like her. Right.
Exactly.
And Johnny too. I mean, the other thing about his character is he sees potential in everyone. Like when he looks at someone, he doesn't look to find fault. He looks to see potential.
Mm-hmm.
Even in Roland, it was hard for him, but he still saw potential in Roland.
Oh,
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not that hard to not see potential in someone who steals your doors as revenge or not letting them stay longer in your house. I mean, kind of with Johnny on that.
Mm-hmm.
I like the what were they called? The hotel award things.
I don't remember what those are called.
Hosties
Yeah.
or something. I don't know. Whatever those. I like that episode too of Johnny when he helped Stevie get away from Amir.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
When
Yeah.
he could tell that she was visibly, very upset. So he helped her get away and went back and got her bag and offered to either take her out to dinner or just take her back home.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Yeah.
really good episode with those two together. I really liked Stevie and Johnny's relationship.
Yeah.
How
Mhm,
it
me
developed.
too.
It's crazy that he had such an absentee role in Alexis's and David's life.
Mhm.
But when he got there, it was almost like at the same speed he became a father to all three of them, where he
Mhm.
wasn't before to any of them. Obviously, he wasn't to Stevie. She's not really a part of their family. But he once he was in this town, he saw it as again, a business mind. He saw it as an opportunity for something really good to come out of it for all of them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Although it took him a while to learn what Stevie's name was.
Yep.
So do we have moments of Johnny and Moira together? Do we discuss those? You gave yours, Jeanette. I think mine has to be the one where David walks in on them and then they're trying to explain it afterwards to him, and Moira's saying that sex isn't just for procreating. And the other one is when they go to what they think is Roland's cabin, but it's Bob and Gail's cabin or Gwen's cabin. And first of all, how weird is it that Bob and Gwen just sat on the couch and listened to that? It's so bizarre.
Yep.
And I don't like those scenes because they're having sex. I like those scenes because we see them actually. I mean, there's nothing more vulnerable than doing that with some other person. I mean, you cannot be any more exposed, literally and figuratively. But I think that those scenes just show a really, really, really sweet connection that they have. That they aren't just about themselves, and they aren't. I think they're growing together again. They're finding themselves together again, and I think that those are really sweet moments for that.
Yeah. Right.
What about when they went skinny dipping?
Wasn't it just Johnny that did that?
I thought it was both of them. Am I remembering that wrong?
I guess I don't remember what scene. I'm thinking about the end when they go to the river and Johnny was the one who was found out.
I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about a completely different show. I thought I remembered them skinny dipping. It popped in my head.
I've seen the first few seasons way more than the end seasons. So
They
have to
were
refresh
going
me.
to go skinny dipping. That's why he got naked.
Yeah. And Moira got a phone call and walked away.
Yeah,
right?
she got a phone call and walked away.
Yeah. That's right. I just looked it up.
That was Amanda, you were wrong.
I was.
Oh, there it is.
I'll admit it.
You didn't in the beginning.
Only sometimes. That was a little bit wrong.
It wasn't all the way wrong. They were gonna skinny dip. So
I think my other favorite Moira and Johnny moment is when they're going to the flea markets for Christmas shopping. Or just for shopping in general, and just seeing how Johnny is so excited about every find he has, and Moira just sees the complete crap that's there, but she still indulges him. And I think that was really sweet.
Yeah. They're a really sweet couple. I mean, honestly. Yeah.
What about you, Amanda and Tiffany?
Me?
Your name's Amanda. Was the skinny dipping yours?
I don't know. I can't really think of any good ones right now. I know they'll come to me later.
Yeah.
I liked the cabin episode too, and then also when they bought the second hotel and they were going to use the room, and then Roland and Jocelyn, the baby, also showed up.
Yep. Oh, another one when they have to babysit. I think it's really funny. Like that's a funny episode.
Funny.
I vaguely remember that. I don't know why that one's so hard for me to remember.
I'm trying to. Well, I've only seen all of these once, but I just remember Johnny especially. I don't know. I remember them having to change a diaper, and I can't remember exactly what happened.
Roland and Jocelyn's baby, who they just shoved on him last minute.
Yeah.
I think mine would. I mean, now kind of reading around, I think my favorite one from them is when Moira finds all the love letters.
No, yeah, and she gets mad.
So mad. That whole episode is hilarious to me. That might be one of my top 3 favorite moments. I'm gonna have to think about it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's my favorite, but that's one that popped in my head too.
I think that all of these moments that we've shared that are hilarious and they're funny that's what's so great about the show is that, especially when they're writing for the Rose, I mean, because the Rose family obviously are the main characters. It's a show about the Rose family. That's who it's about. Those are the main characters. Yes, there are other players that have huge integral roles, and especially in the developing of who the Roses are. But in all of those episodes, or all those moments that we talked about, our favorite moments that were funny, that some were serious, they all have so many layers to them. And I think that you really see that in the Roses. Like if we were to dissect every one of those moments, even though they're funny, we can find a serious underlying of how they grew or how they were struggling as a person. And I think those are just really sweet, subtle ways that Daniel Levy and Eugene Levy put into the show to demonstrate how people grow when they're just around people who let them be who they are.
Yeah.
And I really think that's the biggest deciding factor in the Roses and how they get from season 1 to season 6. Is they're just around people who just want them to be them. I mean, you had that weird moment in season 1 where Roland's really excited that Moira is, what's her character's name again on Sunset Bay?
If you hadn't asked, I would have known it, but now.
Is it Vivian Blake?
Yes.
When Roland is so excited that that's who she is. When she comes in the house and they're trying to get the papers signed to sell the town.
He wants her to smack
he
him.
begs her to slap him. That was a weird moment.
It's really weird. Roland is so weird.
Doesn't
Anyways.
Jocelyn say that he asked to role play that when they're being intimate?
Yeah.
Like the second episode, I think.
Yeah.
It is the second episode. No, second or third. Yeah, because that's when they were talking about the town sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, second or third. I just started watching not long ago.
When I was going through quotes for our season or for our Facebook group, I came across that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But other than that, they didn't have, well, I mean, Herb Erblinger. Is that his name? Herb Erblinger? Bertlinger? Erblinger?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I don't know what it actually, I think it is Herb Erblinger. Yeah. I can't say it either, so.
Does a person name their baby Herb? Or is that a Herbert? Maybe? Is that
Sometimes it's
short?
We have a Herb. Yeah.
Herb can be an actual name.
Mhm.
It's weird, but I mean,
That's not a good name.
well, it's about spices.
Herb.
But so there were those two instances where people were really excited that she was going to be Vivian Blake, that she was going to be this person. But other than that, these people just wanted them to be themselves. These people just wanted to be around the Roses as the Roses.
Mhm.
And obviously in season 1, we see a lot of adjusting for everyone. But once we get past that, even Jocelyn, I mean, if I were Jocelyn, I probably would have given up on the Roses, or especially Moira, long before.
Jocelyn's too nice, though, to give up on that.
But she fought to make sure that they were who they were.
Mm-hmm.
Even with David, I mean, she gave him an opportunity to talk to that one kid in her school. It turned out to be a colossal mistake. But she also asked Moira to speak to her acting class. And she also, even though Moira had a horrible audition after that beautiful one for the Jazzagals, she still let Moira in. I mean, who scats like that? It still gets the role. And she trusted Moira by the end because she had let her be who she was. And Moira is someone who is worthy of trust, and she's worthy of value and friendship. And I think that that's something that's a running theme in the show.
Yeah.
Is that being who you are makes you a worthwhile person, because who you are has value. Okay, with the Roses and how we've talked about their growth and how we've talked about who they became versus who they were, is there something or someone in the town that we see who really helped them be something that surprised you maybe? Was there an aspect of their character that surprised you the longer they lived in Schitt's Creek?
I mean, I think Twyla and her friendship with Alexis definitely surprises me. Because they seem so different. So that dynamic just, I don't know. It surprised me that it worked as well as it did.
Roland was a surprise to me because he really ended up being, a really good friend, not only to Johnny, but, the whole family.
And who could have seen from season 1 that Johnny was going to go into business with Roland?
Yeah.
Never. Yeah.
Never, ever.
Not a million years, I would have thought.
Yeah.
No way.
I think Patrick too, I mean, brings out a side of David that we would have never thought was gonna happen from season 1.
Mhm.
I mean, it was from season 1, I would have never in my wildest dreams thought that David would choose to stay in that town even when he didn't have to.
Yes,
So
I'd agree with that.
And I love that he did.
mhm.
I love that he did.
And for David too, I think Stevie brought out a lot of surprising things about him. I think that
Yeah.
when in season 1, when they go to that dinner at Roland's house and David has to go there, and then David's like, no, I'm leaving. I'm done. I'm all done with this. He shows up to that party where he thought he was going to be the victim of a hate crime. Even in that, Stevie convinced him to go. That was the first time Stevie convinced him to do something that was really way out of his comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I think that part of I think he did leave because he didn't want to be at Roland's house, but he could have gone back to the hotel.
Mhm.
And he chose not to. He chose because David's good at being by himself. Well, maybe
Yeah.
good's not the word, but he is
He
by
can do
himself a
it.
lot.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he went to this tailgate party instead of going back to the motel shows you how much he wanted that connection with another person and how much he felt he could get it from her. So the fact that Stevie was able to pull him out of his comfort zone without even trying that hard, I think was pretty surprising for me. And how
Mhm.
quickly he did it. And with
Yeah.
Moira, I think it was Jocelyn. Like when
Yeah.
Jocelyn took her to, when Moira needed a relaxing day and Johnny convinced Jocelyn to come give her a spa day and he took her to get a blowout. She let someone ruin one of her wigs
Mhm.
for that. Old Moira would have never done that. So you see
Right.
the side where Moira is, she's not just thinking about the people, but she's sacrificing something that in the very, very first episode, we see how valuable those wigs are to her. And she's
Yeah.
willing to sacrifice it just so that someone else won't be hurt or sad or offended by her actions.
Yeah.
So I think the wig thing was actually one of the more surprising moments for me about Moira.
I agree. And the moment with Stevie during the cabaret performance, I think that surprised me too, because you know, the fact that she gave Stevie the role and just was so supportive and
I think we can
helped
see
her
that as
through
a
it.
Jocelyn influence too.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, they did the casting together first of all, but I think being as close as she was to Jocelyn and watching how she treated other people and
Mhm.
how much Jocelyn loved other people and Jocelyn was so happy. The fact that Jocelyn constantly gave of herself, but because of that, people gave back to her. I think that encouraged Moira to actually care about other people more, to make a decision to care about other people more.
Yeah.
Agree with that.
And I think for Alexis, I think it was equally Ted and Mutt that did that.
Mhm.
Because I think Mutt brought out a stronger side of Alexis that she didn't think she had.
Yeah.
He pushed her
Yes.
to do things that she was uncomfortable with, that she didn't want to do because she didn't want to offend someone. And Mutt kind of brought that to her attention. Not
Yeah,
kind of,
I
he
agree.
really did, especially when it came to Ted.
Mhm.
You have to do this. And he just kind of explains to her, he kind of lays it all out there for her that you're stronger than you think you are. Stop acting like you aren't strong enough. And I
Yeah.
think that when she first moved there, Mutt was a relationship she needed to have to find out who she was as a person, to find out that she didn't have to be just a thumb or just under someone's thumb. She didn't have to be someone else subservient to anybody else, that she could be strong and she could be independent and she could do these things. And then of course you have Ted, who showed her that she actually had value. So
Mhm. I agree with that.
All right, is there anything else we have to say about the Roses, good or bad, or anything about how they grew together as a family or separately?
I'm sure I'll think of 1,000 moments after this.
Right.
I gotta write down things.
You what?
I have to write down things. I like our top 10 moments.
Yeah. And let
It
us
helps me
know
too.
if you guys like the top 10 moments too. I just
Mhm.
they wanted to do. I don't even know if anyone wanted to do a top 10 moment, but I thought that maybe doing a top 10 every week wouldn't be ideal. So that was that. If you guys like the top 10 moments, we will absolutely bring those back.
I think it's good for us to switch around. Some top 10.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Top 10 moments are just easier because we can prepare. And I have those moments in my head.
Yeah. And
I
see,
mean, 13 groups. I have all these shows all in I cannot remember details from everything.
I'm better at off the cuff.
Yeah.
All right, so let us know, guys. I think that's all we have to say about the Roses. We saw them grow from people who only were aware of things they wanted, who weren't aware of their needs. And I think that's an accurate statement. I don't think anyone knew what they needed at all before coming to Schitt's Creek, and they were around real people who were weird, people who were out there and strange, but who genuinely loved, who were genuinely sensitive, who genuinely cared about how people turned out, no matter how long they knew them. I think that they came to Schitt's Creek as broken people who didn't understand what they were missing or what they needed. And the longer they stayed in Schitt's Creek, the more relationships they had with the people of that town, the more they understood what was really important, the more they, and as cliche as that sounds, I really think that it was that they understood that to be themselves was really okay. Whereas you look at Moira, she was an actress and she was always in actress mode. She was never herself. Johnny had to always be in business mode. David was, he was David. He hid behind so many things.
Yeah.
And Alexis, I don't think she necessarily put other people first. I think she always looked at how she could get ahead, but that meant that she had to be what everyone else wanted her to be.
Yeah, I agree.
But the longer they were in this town, I think they all grew to the point where they saw that being themselves was the best value that they could have. And that not just that they could have, but that anyone else could have. Everyone else, when they became aware of who they were and when they became aware of what was important, they were a benefit to everybody in that town, not just themselves. And I think that was the awakening that Alexis had when she decided to go off on her own instead of joining Ted in the islands, is that she had more to give people because of who she was, not because of what she could do for other people, because of what she could offer them as who she was. And I think they grew together, and I think they grew separately. And I don't know if there's much more we can say to that. So if you think we missed anything, if you think that we're wrong in our assessment that they just were the same as they were before, I'm really interested to hear why you think that. So reach out to us. We have an email at familyfanclub2021@gmail.com. We have our Facebook group of Schitt's Creek Rose Family Fan Club. And we're on Instagram and Twitter. And you can find us under the variation of Family Fan Club. I don't remember exactly what they are. Try a version of Family Fan Clubs and you'll find us on there. And I think that's all we have for you tonight. I actually looked it up while we were talking what's coming up next week. And I forgot what they are. Hang on.
No.
So Sunday is going to be The Resident. And we have a special interview for you after that one with the cast and crew that's coming out that Monday. And our next Wednesday one is going to be Friday Night Lights. So if you are fans of either of those shows, tune in for those. If you're not fans of either of those shows, watch our podcast and see if you want to be a fan of that show. And as always, we want to hear your thoughts. We really, I know that we don't have a lot of our listeners who are reaching out to us to tell us what they think about the podcast, to tell us what they want us to do better or want to include. Maybe you have an idea for what storyline you want us to do. You know the groups we run. If you have something you want us to talk about, let us know. We want to be here for you. We're all fans, and we're doing this for you as much as for ourselves. So we hope you guys have a great week. Tune in on Sunday, tune in on Monday, and tune in on Wednesday. Mondays are interview days, remember. Mondays and Thursdays are the days we will put out cast and crew interviews. So always check in on Monday or Thursday. You never know what's coming at you because we don't tell you in advance. We just post them. Maybe if that's something you want to have in advance, let us know, and then we'll start telling you in advance. But we're going to put that responsibility on you. So we'll see you in a week. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.